kind of book questions there are. Starting this in a weird process here. Oop, that's just my. All right, so this is 1-4 in the book, but I'm going to steer away from the book for a moment. 1-4, building functions from functions. It's really operations with functions. Okay, so let's think about why does this all of a sudden show up? Up to this point, we've been using getting terms to analyze functions, domain, range, increasing, decreasing, boundedness, which never showed up on the quiz. All the other stuff. You don't have to run through it again. And then graphing those functions, and then shifting them and flipping them, and understanding at least 7 functions. When I see that equation, when I see a square root, I got that little curve. When I see an absolute value, I have a v. When I see x squared, it's a parabola, that kind of stuff, instantaneously in your brain. And then the shifting of it and expectations of picture, input, output. Now we're going to do operations with those. But I don't like what the book does because they do operations with functions that don't really meld together algebraically. And I think there is a great divide between students that can and cannot FOIL. All right, that's why I say, good FOILers are what, everyone? Good factors. But if you can't FOIL, how the heck are you going to factor? How are you going to have any knowledge at all of what factoring is? All right, so it's that algebra, that basic algebra, that is really missing with some of us. All right, maybe not 5th hour because we just had that speech, how your class average dominated. But I think we could all use the help. All right, so let me zoom in on this. And that's all that means. They have a funky way of. Am I frozen again? I was frozen that whole time. Okay, they have a funky way of writing this functional notation, what I'm doing with 2 functions. So sometimes they write it like this left side, which is a little weird. What does that mean? Well, all it means you're just adding 2 functions together. Not a big deal. What's left? Minus multiplying. Do take note. There is a notation coming up later. Maybe you saw this last year, but I'm going to treat it like it's new. Actually, I've treated everything like it's new, even though I've said, hey, you should know this, but we're going to, show you on the notes. But this book has just FG. The invisible operation is multiplication. So I stuck that little dot in there, and all it means is you're taking 2 functions and multiplying them. Sorry, I didn't finish my word there. This is not that. This is something completely different. Take a note to self. Because when we get to this, I know that the people that don't focus and really get our stuff figured out here, don't take notes, they're going to turn that into a multiplication question, and it's not. It's something completely different. So it's your job to know. And then I always say, like, hey, during the test coming up, this is added and then 1-5 and that's it. Someone's going to come up to me and say, what does that mean? I'm going to go sit down because that's your test and you're supposed to know that notation. Blah, blah, blah. There's mean, ugly Mr. Samuelis. But that is true. You're telling me you don't know that notation. I'll tell you what it means later. So let's go to the worksheet and do the easy ones. All right, so I'll flip to this. Oh, I'm not ready. Darn it, I forgot I didn't delete I forgot to make a copy of this note sheet that I have here, or homework sheet. And I'll tell you what else drives me bonkers. I'm going to do like all the odds, and then you're responsible for the evens. But if I get a worksheet that the odds aren't done, that just shows me that you're a bum. Yes, I just said that with my eyes in the screen, that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so you saw me doing that online. Now it's presented to the class. Before I continue, this has nothing to do with this question, but maybe we can put it in our note sheet here. Let's just do this. I think I'm going to do this a little differently than the other hour. I'm going to go back to this and maybe go over here. Yeah, this is good. Okay, let's get a function up here. So maybe in your notebook, do this. Let's take a function like f of x equals x squared minus 2x. Let's just keep it like that. Because if I start going into the next stuff and you don't know this, then we're in trouble. And that's what I've seen the troubles. Most of the troubles are stuff that you don't know coming in that we should. And that's why you didn't like my comments in the beginning of the semester. So what's f of 2? This is what I mean. Well, f of 2, it's just replacement, right? Wherever there's an x, everyone, what am I going to put in its place? 3, 2, 1, go. 2. There's no more x there anymore. You take the x away, and now that's a place marker for a 2, because that's what they're telling me to do. And that's simple. All right, and then we're going to complicate this a little bit more. 2 squared is 4. Oh, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 4 happens to be 0. All right, so that's an evaluation. But then this is where it gets weird. Let's get nuts right away. What's f of a? And now this is where students start doing some crazy stuff. They start losing the basics of what this means. Will x be in this answer when I write this over here? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1, go. No. And I don't know what happens. People start taking a and x and putting them together. Wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace it with a what, everyone? Say it. 3, 2, 1. A. So this becomes a squared minus 2a. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. So what does f of a minus b become? It's all the same concept, except the algebra that I have to do gets a little bit more complicated. Wherever there is an x, I'm going to replace that with an a minus b. I don't care what's in those parentheses. This is what this means. And now this is turning more into pre-calculus, not what you would do in Math 1 or even in grade school. I don't know if they do function notation in grade school, so I shouldn't say that. I think Sammy, baby, she was in 8th grade last year. You know what you got to do with this? It's that 4-letter F word. Careful. 3, 2, 1, go. Foil. It's not just square A and square B. All right, so you'd have to foil this in order to simplify this. The previous ones you couldn't do anything with. Or the previous one, it's just that's the answer. But this one, this is where I'm talking about that algebra coming in and the skills of distributing a negative. I'll foil this next. But this is negative 2 distributed. That's why the 2b is positive here at the end. And then good foilers. I swear to dog, I know people still cannot foil in here. I know it. And I don't know why. Because actually, I have taught it like it's brand new. Like this. I've drawn the lines. That's an F up there. This is an O. Negative AB. And then it is synonymous. I'm telling you right now. With students that go into English for writing, essays, senior English, and they don't know what a noun and a verb is. The inability to do a foiling here. So let's get real about where we are mathematically and where we need to go. Now, how to write this in standard form, there is no rule because we got A's and B's all over the place. Middle term is a like term. Then I guess I'm just going to leave it like this. So don't freak out over when I say in the notes, put this in standard form, which is highest degree to lowest. We got variables all over the place. And none of these are like terms. So that is the answer, right? And you're expected to do that algebra. And that's what I mean. I think those that are struggle with these basic ideas, and we need to go back, look at it, get it done, and then we can move on. I hope. That's the hope. All right, so now let's go to the worksheet. I like that. That's just what function replacement is. And you're going to see a lot of that today. But is that really what happens in this first one? Not really. And actually, this is the nice notation. I'm going to do 1. Look at 2 real quick. Nope, 2 is fine. Look at 4. 4 is subtraction, but it says h minus g of a. It just means h of a minus g of a. And that's how you're going to write it. Do I have that on this one? Good, I do. So we'll take care of that then. So really, the next thing is start doing it. G of n is just the name. The people that struggle on this, they try to keep g in the question. No, g of n is the name. The function g of n is negative n squared minus 4n. So that is a replacement. I replace this with this. Plus, I replace this with this. Sorry, it's hard to grab all these things. And I'm only going to use parentheses. My pen sucks. I don't care. I just said a bad word. I have to write three times before it actually writes. Do the parentheses have any meaning? Yes or no? Do these parentheses have any meaning? They don't really. They're just showing the replacement. Don't write this, but in your mind, you should say, okay, I really didn't need those. So really all this is an add like term thing. And then I end up with negative n squared minus n plus 3. Someone asked me later, there's one that could factor. We don't factor when we simplify. Simplifying is the opposite of doing any factoring. You just add all the like terms and put the answer in standard form. All right, so don't ever think you have to factor at the end. Well, we do have a division question coming up where actually we do want to think about that. So for this one, again, you could do number 2, looking at this one or whatever. If I'm going too slow, that gives everyone the options to do what they want to do. And on a Friday, I'm not going to do the old mean asking students stuff. You don't want to take your notes. You want to sit there like a lump. Wait till you go to college. They don't care, and they'll take your money. So what that means is f of n minus g of n. So that's part of the process of understanding the notation. F of n is 2n plus 2. So I replace f of n with its value in this particular number, minus g of n, its value is n plus 2. Do these parentheses have meaning? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Oh no. Yes, they do. Why do they have meaning? What do you have to do with that minus sign? Distribute it. So in that case, they do have significant meaning. Meaning, if you don't write the parentheses, you probably won't get the negative on the 2. And that happens all the time. That's one of the crucial errors that students do. Minus 2. Distribute that minus. They shouldn't have to show that in this high-level math class. Well, I'll be darned. 2n minus n is n. 2 minus 2 is nothing. So it's just n. So again, I've been blabbering about the book. The book does our family of functions and try to do subtractions, like a square root with an exponential, and nothing happens with them algebraically. And then it's really a domain thing to ask you about the domain after that. And I think this is more important, that we actually step back and deal with some polynomials, because chapter 2 is all about polynomials. All right, so now it's multiply. Let me look across here. Good. Just look at 6 real quick. That's for you to do. The book doesn't even give you the dot. The book just says GH of n. So when we get into, if I use the software again for the test, it's just going to say GH of n. And that's how you really do say that. You need to know that that's multiplication. Anywho, f of x, since it's in that nice thing, is negative 4x plus 5. G of x is x cubed plus 4x. Do the parentheses have meaning? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. You're darn tootin'. What's the 4-letter F word? Foil. Okay, and those that can't foil, get on the foil bus. Negative 4x cubed. Wrong. Fourth. X times x cubed is x to the fourth. And that's first for FOIL, the first 2 terms. Outer. Negative 4x times 4x is negative 16x squared. Didn't we already do this? This is what we started off in chapter P, our second day, I think. We did like multiplying and all that other stuff. But it's just presented in a different way, so we're understanding our notation. And then for those that struggle in chapter P, well, here we go again. And then when we get to chapter 2, a lot of chapter P stuff is in there. So we were checking, where are you at? Some of you were perfect. Some of you got a long way to go. I and then L. This is O, I, L. All right, and then is that standard form? Not quite. We want to put this in descending order if we can, and we can. And then we call it a day. All right? Negative 4x squared, yes, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to read that answer. Okay, where are we at here? Oh, and then the division. Really not a big deal. I wish I couldn't get questions that work a little bit better, but this is the one where I'll ask the domain after. The one question. F of t divided by g of t. It is really simple. It is negative 4t minus 3 divided by, this is how we want to write it, t squared plus 5t. if we were going to use the book was more about what's the domain after, because they would use all these family of functions. You had to really think about domain, and it was kind of tough. It's probably good if I did look at it eventually, a couple different questions. Ooh, I don't want to say this yet, but this one's fine. We're going to find the domain. So what is the domain? By the way, this is going to happen again anyway in the chapter 1 test. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I wrote this out. What kind of factoring happens in the bottom? It starts with a G. There's a hint. 3, 2, 1, go. Greatest common factor. Only one person said it. That makes me sad. It's undistribution. This is the factors. Good FOILers are good factors. Good distributors are good factors. They have the concept down that they know that if I threw this back in, that's t squared plus 5t. I don't understand why people cannot figure out factoring. But anyway, what does that mean? T cannot equal. For this one, t cannot equal 3, 2, 1. Come on, guys, don't make me cry. -5. Well, what about this one? We forget that one. 3, 2, 1. See, no one said anything. 0. T cannot equal 0. So t cannot equal 0 or -5. So this is how you exclude -5, and you do have to go in order. I know I talked about -5. Oh, I actually did talk about -5 first, but and then also 0, but that's how they go in order on the number line. Annoying to write domain issues for excluding values. It just gets awfully lengthy. So that was the only one I really care about, the domain that's related to what we've already quizzed you on. All the others, the domain is actually all real numbers, so it's really not a big deal. All right, now here we go. Let's go to the notes. And then let's write their grand words on this. Boom. This is this notation. And I'll zoom in on that as I move out. Let f and g be two functions such that the domain of f intersects the range of g, the composition of f and g, denoted by, I don't know if you have to write that down. I don't know how much meaning that sentence has. Here's what you're actually doing when you do write this down here, f of g of x. That's how we state what is happening up here. F of g of x, and really focus on that notation. Again, remember, mean Mr. Samuelis. You come up the day of the test and say, what does that mean? I'm going to say, sit down, that's your job. Sorry, that's the test. People often make that multiplication. It's not. It's actually plugging one function into another. That's really what happens. You're actually inserting a function into another and then doing a weird algebra with it. So I will instantly change it to this notation if I ever see this notation. Fumble over there. And then I'll say a funny story after I do the next example. Actually, I think this next one's pretty simple if I remember. And then the book, you can see that what I might have done for an example, e to the x with the square root function. They really try to get those family of functions that we have and try to insert those in each other. It's just a little strange. I really want to focus on the algebra right now, like I've stated over and over and over again. So let's go to 7 and then look at that. Okay, so there it is. There's that notation. The very next thing I'm going to write is this. I'm going to write it in a more useful notation, which is f of g of a. And that's what it is. You're inserting g of a into the f function. Remember what I said about this, that this is just a name. G of a is the same as y. Where's your calculator? Oh, yeah. Okay, and then go ahead and take this sheet and put the bubbles in, and then continue without a calculator on the rest. Front and back, there's some stuff. I do know you're good. Shoot. Oh, get dizzy there. Nice, right? Pretty easy, isn't it? No? Yes? I don't know. Can you say something? Okay. So this is just the name. So the very next thing you're going to do is in its place of g of a, we're going to put what it's defined by, which is a squared minus a. And now I'm going to go back to what you should see in your notes. This is what I mean. If you could just handle that one step, remember what we wrote over here. This is why I asked all of these questions. Look at the last one. We're like the last one, correct? Here's f of x, but now I want f of a minus b. Wherever there's an x, I replace that with a minus b, right? This is the only thing that's tough about f of g ofs and g of f ofs. Oh boy, why'd you throw me all the way up there? So all I have to do is go to the f function. Wherever there's an a, I get rid of it, and I throw a squared minus a in its place. So wherever there is an a, that goes away, and I put this in its place. What people do often on this is they put a times a squared minus a. They like keep this a here, and then they put that there. Or they just say this is multiplied to two functions, and they just FOIL these two. 0 points. I can't give you any points because you've not read the notation correctly. All right, and that's what you need to understand. Very direct. And then that's the answer. So you've inserted one function into another. That's exactly what happened. Way different than anything else. And then so over here, this is already nice and good. This one, aren't those almost exactly the same, except they're n's instead of a's, right? Correct? Can you notice that? What's the difference in this question? What's the difference in this question? They flipped it. So I don't want to do this for you. I accidentally I did this with the A's and I flipped it, and it ended up being what essentially number 12 is. Put a note to self, though. Just as a hint, you are definitely going to have to be foiling in this question. And if you're not, you're doing it wrong. Got it? When you change who gets inserted to who, it changes what happens, and then there's a foiling going on. All right, so what did I do? Just 9? Where are we at with 12? What's GG of T? G of T? Aw, reminds me of great grandma. That's what my kids called her. GG. Anyway, sorry. G of T. Strange. All right, just slow down a second. Remember the process. Okay, so I look on the inside. G of T. And then what I do is I replace that with its functional definition with this particular number, which means G of T is 4t minus 1. So that is the name. That is its value replacement. Some people ask, where did the G go? You're killing me, Smalls. All right? G of T is just like Y. Y equals. What does Y equal? This. So I can replace it with that. Right? And that's what you need to understand. Now, I can forget that even happened, and then this turns into that question I told you on our note sheets, that you put in your book there. This just means we go to this function, and wherever there is a t, I get rid of it, and I put in its place that which is in those parentheses / yellow. So 4t minus 1 now becomes 4 times 4t minus 1 minus 1. And then you distribute and add. Wrong. 16t minus 4 minus 1. 16t minus 5. I don't like that. I put a little curly Q on t's because they look like plus signs. Okay, now the weird section. This is strange. I did this on purpose because the worksheet generator does this. Our book doesn't, but it's all perfectly fine. All we got to do is slow down. First of all, what's the main operation? Say it, 3, 2, 1. Subtract. Well, what are we going to subtract? 5f minus 3g? Very simple. When I write it like this, you'll know exactly what to do. It means take 5 times f of x and subtract that from 3 times g of x. So it's multiple operations happening here in this weird formatting. Okay, f of x is this. So the next step is replace the name with its functional value in this particular number minus g of x is this. So I'm going to replace that with x cubed minus 1. It's not hard. Maybe you wouldn't know what to do before the notes, but now that you see the simplicity of it, now you'll see why. And then this is the algebra and the PEMDAS. I have my Math 2 students write PEMDAS on their paper. You certainly have to multiply before you subtract. All right, so I certainly have to distribute the 5. I certainly have to distribute the minus 3. That becomes plus 3. All right, so take note of that plus 3 there. Maybe really highlighting that. Don't make that mistake of not distributing a negative. That was a double negative for English people. And then final answer should be descending order. Oh, and we had to add like terms anyway. 20 plus 3 is 23. So it ain't no thing, chicken wings, what you have to do on that. Everyone good so far? Is everyone okay? How many people are almost done with both sides because I'm going so slow? All right, that's good. Okay, now, really pay attention to this. Notice 15 on, what's the difference between everything else you've done right now? What do you see? A bunch of what's that's brand new. Starts with an N. And you, numbers, fifth hour, fourth hour, nobody talks anymore. Bunch of numbers. So I'll tell you what you can do on this. This actually makes things a lot simpler. As a matter of fact, if I just destroyed everything and only looked at this, and only looked at this, and only looked at this, just tell me, what is f of 0? 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, I don't hear it. Okay, one more time. What's f of 0? Give me the final answer. 3, 2, 1, go. 3. Everyone knows that. All right, that's how I started the lesson. I was worried, because I get worried now, like, what do they actually know? And that's why I started with that basic question before. And I'm going to go back to it for those that are scuffling. That was the very first thing I asked. Do you know how to do f of 2? Which is just a replacement. So now when you look at this new question that I have here, you just have to do a couple things and organize it. Oh, shoot. Is the eraser. So what's f of 0? Fine, I'll write it. It's 2 times 0 plus 3. Oh, but then I'm supposed to multiply that by, if I will even color code it, g, what? You really tick me off, computer. G of 0, which means I go to the g function and I plug in a 0 for x. And then I evaluate these two. You don't FOIL. Oh my gosh, if anyone FOILed this, you drive me crazy here. This is actually evaluatable. 2 times 0 plus 3 is 3. Oh, this is silly. 0 squared plus 3 times 0 is 0. What's the final answer, everybody? 30. I'm just kidding. 0. So with numbers, something completely different can happen. Fine. This means f of negative 8. I should bother with the calculator just to make sure you're focused and listening. And then this says g of negative 8. Find those two and subtract them. That's what that notation means. Simple Mickey Mouse stuff. 4 times negative 8. I really shouldn't write that like that. Minus parentheses. Oh, this should definitely not be written like this. If you type that on your calculator, you get a negative. Oh my gosh. Even my honor students, negative 8 squared is a negative. You're killing me. What's a negative times a negative, everybody? Positive. Negative 32 plus 4. Struggling here. Negative 28. Is that right? Sorry. Ugh. Then minus 64. I don't know why I had that still in parentheses. Who cares? 64 plus 1 is 65. And then it's crushing my soul. How many people I ask 3 minus 4 and I don't get the right answer? It really is killing me, the numeracy. But we should know that this is a big negative when we're done. So you add 28 and 65 and put a negative on it when you have a negative minus another number. 65, 75, 85, 95, 94, 93, right? 93? All right, so I added 30, and then I went backwards 2. That's how you add 28. This is the one I love. Okay, so focus how this is different. It doesn't say g of h of x, it says g of h of 3. That makes your life infinitely easier. Slow down. Write this in this notation, the useful notation, g of h of 3, and then simplify it. I'm going to do the same thing I did on the last one when we first started this. Everyone can answer this question. Get rid of all of this superfluous stuff and just tell me, what is h of 3? 3, 2, 1. What's the answer? Go. 4. You're just plugging in 3 for x in the h function, and you're focusing on that first and evaluating. So that's why this is actually easy and why it's different than g of h of x, where I have to do the algebra of inserting a function into another. So I can focus on this. Fine, I'll write it where you got the 4 from. This becomes g of, don't look at the g of right now. H of 3 is 3 times 3 minus 5. Everyone can answer that question. Why, when we just put in this little more complicated thing, we shut down? You shouldn't. You got to simplify the math. And then everyone, get rid of all the superfluous stuff. Don't look at any of this. Just answer, what is g of 4? 3, 2, 1, go. 0. Do you see how simple this is? And I've tried to treat everything that we've done all year long like this. All right? Just get on board, man. The quicker you get on board, the better. 0. Final answer after all of this. Oh, poor Mr. Samulus lamenting here. Oh, fine. We'll do one more just for giggles. F of 9. Oh, getting a headache. G of 9. I might take a nap 6 hours, my free period. You know those couches over there? I've been thinking about like dragging 3 of those pieces in here and then just laying on it in my class. You think I should? 17, right? Anyone? Right? 2 times 9 minus 1. F of 9. Am I okay? Then g of 9. Oh boy. 9 squared is 81. 4 times. I better write this down. So 2 times 9. Did you already get it? And then, oh boy, plus 9 squared. This is a big one. Minus 4 times 9. Pen's like barely writing. 81 minus 36. 81, 71, 61, 51, 41. And I was going to add 4 back. 45. Nice. And it is positive. And then 45, 55, 62. Is that right? Okay, so I think this happened on this worksheet. Remember when I put this online, here are the answers. Page 3 and 4. Got it? Same old, same old. All right, done. So I know I extrapolated this all the way out. I just really wanted to work on the notations, which is the book does, but make it more algebraic.